Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Creative Insider. Thank you so much for the support. The last week, we have reached the first super big milestone for me, which was 1,000 downloads. So thank you very much all around the world because you were been super supportive and motivating for me to keep going and to achieve this. It may sound a small achievement, but for me means a lot because I started from zero and the podcast is growing, and thank you very much. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, today is the 17th of August, so hey, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me. So cool. And now, to introduce you my guest, I'm very happy to have today Nabil Rajjoub. Nabil is a former colleague of mine. It's a dear friend, and he lives in Berlin, but he's originally from Syria. So he will tell us the story about how he became an architect, even if he wasn't wanting or meaning to be an architect, and how he left Syria for Lebanon, then moved to Germany. And yeah, his story is with a lot of challenges, and his life is still a little challenging for the rest of us. Can sound very harsh, but I think it's very important to tell also these stories. And he's also a very good architect, and you can learn a lot from his projects. I'll link in the description. So thank you, enjoy, and yeah, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday.
The whole world stops just like that.
Hello, Nabil. How are you doing?
Hey, Georgi. I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
My pleasure.
So, for the people who don't know you, you are a former colleague of mine, and we have had a very good relationship us working together.
That's
So it's
great.
nice to hear from you again.
Thanks. It's. I'm really glad, as you said, to be on your podcast and to have the chance to have a conversation with you. I have been following your podcast since the beginning, and I'm really inspired with all the stories and all your guests that you had on your podcast, and I'm glad just to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I think you were a little humbled by my invitation, but I think that also your story will be super interesting. And I've heard part of it, but I'm very curious to know more about your story today, because it's interesting. No, nobody today has the time to sit with you for 1.5 hours to talk about your life, and I think it's very interesting. And when it's finished the conversation, you feel very connected with the
That's
person.
yeah, that's definitely true. I 100% agree. As I said, you had on your show a lot of creative minds, and when you sent me the invitation and you told me I want you to be there also on the podcast, I was wow, okay. But I hope that your audience will enjoy the story that I have.
I think they will, and I enjoyed also because your story is very original, and I think that people nowadays don't have the occasion to hear stories like you directly from the people, but just from media or just from other people. So it will be very cool.
Yeah.
But let's start from the beginning. So when in your life you are an architect, as I am, and when in your life you decided you wanted to study something like architecture or being creative, or how did it start, this idea in you?
Okay, I believe the answer won't be the typical that you will usually hear. I didn't want to be an architect at the first place. Let me go back to how our education system works in Syria. I mean, uh, you basically have until the ninth grade, everyone study the same things. Like you don't have any guidance or specification or to guide the student through. Everyone study the same. Either you fail or you go forward. After that, you have three majors like economy field or like industrial field or like general field. General field includes everything like medicine, engineering, everything else like you can. So you go through that until you get to your last year of your high school, where you have this year where you do this big exam, which decide your fate. Let's say, and until to this point, I wanted to study dentist because my uncle was a dentist, and we were have a talk quite a lot. And I said, okay, that seems cool. And it's the person that inspire you, or like the person that you talk to a lot, is the one at your this life stage will affect what you want in somehow. So yeah, and then after doing this one big exam, my grade wasn't enough to go to dentists to study dentist. So I did I saw my options, let's say, and I did the exam to enter the architecture school on an advice from a friend, and I failed.
You failed to get into architecture. Okay.
Exactly, I failed. So as I said, it's not a typical. So I studied the year of this high school, like because you have the chance to do one chance like next year, you know. So I did that to say, okay, I will take all the chances that I have. And again, the grades were not enough to get to what I want exactly, because it's so stressful at that point. Because
So you wanted to be still a dentist the year you tried again.
yes, yes, to be honest. And but after, as I said, the grade wasn't enough for that. Here, my father introduced me to his friend who was an architect, and he started to like talk me more about architecture and what's the role of architects and what's to be done. And then I started to have another idea about the field, and he like guided me how to do the exam and how to do it the right way. And here I took the exam again, I passed, and then I entered the architecture school. And yeah, that's basically how I get into architecture.
How old were you back then, and what year are we talking about?
We are talking now here year 2007 the first try, 2008 the second try. So I studied
And
architecture 2008.
cool. And in which university did you start studying architecture?
That was a university called Al Baath University. It's in Homs, Syria, the city I came from. I didn't say this name of the city. It's Homs called. It's in the middle of the country. It's the third largest city in Syria.
And when you start studying, how was your first time in architectural school? How was the education there? How did you feel like when you started actually studying architecture?
Luckily, there's people that get into a field and they don't like it, and they just want to drop out. And that wasn't the case for me. Luckily, I liked architecture. I liked the field, and I went through it fully. Uh, but the education system there, I don't know. You once said how the studios are like you always have every year. First of all, like we have 5 years of study for a bachelor, which is called Bachelor of Architectural Engineering, which is not very common because you have the combination between design and engineering, like the civil engineering part of the study. And the university or each year was packed of people. Like you have 150 person, and you are divided basically into one or two studio, like several studios, 7 studios. You have the same design topic, and then you have one professor that supervise all of these. So you rarely see that. I guess you once mentioned that in Italy it's the same way, right?
Yeah, you are. When you are a lot of people, you don't have a lot of. I mean, you have general guidance from the teachers, and then I mean, you need to manage a lot on yourself. And I mean, the professor have assistants, which are like PhD students, and they help you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the professors themselves, they see your project once in a while, not very often, because you're like 100 people or something. I mean, not 100, but around 70.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's the same case for us, and it wasn't the best method of education when I compare it to what I saw in Germany, for example, when I came here. Like I remember in Syria, in our very first project, as a freshman students, we were asked to design a house and to provide sketches of its exteriors. And then our professor just recommended us sources of inspiration from American home styles of New England, or I don't know, randomly picture that it's not related or connected in any way to our reality in Syria, you know. And then like you end up with design that's detached from what's there and somehow.
And how long did you study in Syria architecture?
I studied 5 years.
5 years, and then you got a master or a bachelor?
Bachelor, and that's what I, in my opinion, it's too much. Like for a bachelor to have 5 years of study, it's too much. Like 3 years would have been more than enough. And as I said, it's kind of, I felt it's repetitive in terms of the design studio. Of course, the themes will vary, but also there wasn't that proper guidance. People will look a lot for reference images and then like try to imitate that. So like one Syrian architect, she wrote a book about the situation in Syria in terms of architecture. I'm quoting here. She was describing her study in the same university I studied in. She said like it was like eating bites and pieces from all over the world, blindfolded, and then trying to understand the art of cookery. Like it was the same for us. Like there were no historical, philosophical, or intellectual background for the designs that we are doing.
Well, when I was a student, they also make us look a lot of architectures that have been already designed from other architects also in the past, like Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe.
Mhm.
But they also told us how to read architecture, which was very useful because they made us in the first designs project in Rome. They make you analyze like because you design villas. In my class was villas. We need to design
Mhm.
residential, so we've learned how to analyze the spaces, how they're put together, the proportions of facade. So it was like teaching you what are the ingredients, and also teaching you to understand how the ingredients works together. So it was, I think it was very useful teaching, because nowadays when I start a new project, because in the university they cannot teach you every kind of project. For example, you've never maybe planned an airport or never planned some kind of building. So when you know where to look at
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah,
buildings, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's useful.
definitely. I am not talking here negatively about all the education that I get in Syria. Of course, I get the tools, I get the way, the method of how to handle each task, each new task, and there were like the assistants, like the that not the professor, but the assistants. They were also helping us a lot to go how to do the project in appropriate way.
Yeah, I had this conversation also with one of my past guests, Jürgen Saliani. He has studied in Greece. That was, I think, podcast number 13. So if the people who are curious can go to check that one. And he was saying that he went to work for Rem Koolhaas at OMA,
Mhm.
and he worked there with people from Harvard, from the AA of London. And he said, well, I tried to explain them where my university in Greece was. And I told him, I think it's not about only, I mean, being in a good school. It's a lot also about how passionate you are yourself on the subject, because even if you go to the best school of architecture in the world and you're lazy and you don't want to do anything with it, then you won't get successful just because of the quality. But I understand what you mean.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah.
so you've studied 5 years and you have completed your studies. How were your grades in the university? Did you get better?
I actually no, the grades were good. Like first year was a bit difficult until you get to use how the system works, how everything. But then it got better and better. But let me tell you here, like my study there, the 5 years wasn't a normal 5 years. Like it was until 2.5 years we were in a normal situation, like until 2011. And that's where the situation in Syria started to go down, let's say. And the city I came from, my city, it was among the first that start protests and fights in the city. So from 2011, like middle of this year, until I graduated, it wasn't a normal education at all. Like the university stopped for a while, and then like we were going back and forth. Sometimes the road, like to go to the university, was sometimes dangerous. You don't, you cannot go, or if you go, you are risking it. So it was difficult, I would say, the last 2.5 years there.
And yeah, you've told me a lot about this stuff. That was so, but it generated suddenly, or how quickly that generated the situation, and how bad was it?
To be honest, it was very quickly. Like we were a normal second, third year students having our life. There wasn't any signs that something could happen, and yeah, out of the sudden, in 2 3 months, the situation escalated very quickly. People started to protest. The government were like. Shut them down, and then like back and forth, and then like it's too complicated. I don't want to go into the details of this, but it took us by surprise for sure. And here you start seeing, okay, what's going on, what should I do now, what's the future, and you don't know. And back to architectural topic here, I in 2011 I volunteered in the organization Red Crescent, like it's like the Red Cross
Yeah.
outlet in Syria. And what I really liked that I worked, like I applied what I learned in architecture in the humanitarian field, because when the situation started, the people will have been internally displaced, like let's say refugees. They came from other area of the city to other area or around our city, and then they need to have a place to stay. So then of course, with the guidance with more experienced architects, I was working. For example, I remember one school which was still there's no finishing. It's only a structure. The concrete structure is built, and we said, okay, we need to use this school to accommodate these people. So it was summer, so there was not a big problem of like it's being cold or it's raining. So starting to see the layout and to divide and to say this area is suitable better for this, and let's make a smart division using the curtains or whatever, and like that needs to be here, that's to be done this way. Here I really started looking to architecture in a different way, where it's really for helping people, for making better place, even in these difficult times. So that's for me was a moment where I studied the right thing.
And then of course you probably were also happy to see that what was your knowledge and ability was making other people, was helping other people in the difficulty of the situation, I guess, because those people were well happy, not happy, but I mean like in the disgrace they were a little helped, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's the feeling there. Like I didn't only worked or helped in terms of my knowledge over the architecture, but also I was doing the volunteering work, distributing the aids for the people in need, doing different stuff. So that's the feeling of helping in that time was like really satisfying, I would say.
And in which condition did you complete your studies? Because I guess if you say like basically half of your studies you were in sort of a war field, how did you manage to make your thesis, to have
It was
reviews, or
it
was it
was
special?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was really difficult. It's when I recall the memories now, like it was a difficult time because the city was in general in a bad situation where for example, electricity will be gone for half of a day or even more, sometimes days. I don't know. Then you cannot charge your computer, you cannot work on your thesis, and then like okay, the professor says, okay, we cancel this week, we do it next week. You go there and something happened. You can do like I remember one time we went to in the fourth year to do an exam at the university, and then suddenly at the university, a mortar bombs start falling, and everyone started to panic. People got injured, and then everyone stopped the exam and okay, now we need to go home. How? And we waited like in the ground floor for a while, and then like okay, we need to take our chances to go. I had a car. I run with the friends to the car and like starting drive as fast as you can. Just at that time, you want to be home, like because you don't know what the situation outside will be like, and that's not the proper environment to to educate yourself with architecture, but it worked. I mean, we managed to finish it at the end. Like the 5 year, the last year, it got better when I did my thesis. The situation got a little bit better, so there I managed to do my thesis a little bit in a better condition.
So how often have you been experiencing this? And you've been bombed by planes basically, or from.
No, no, not. I would say this the part of the city that I was in. It's not by planes. It's this called motel, I guess, motorhome. I don't know, which is get shorted from area around the city. So it's a ground. What's it called?
But what kind of they are the explosion like super destroying, like
No,
tearing down?
yeah, some of them was there like this, but most of them where they got the damage not a very big radius, but radius that is big enough to make a big damage to the people. And that's the thing. They were mostly targeting the places where they have more the most crowded places to make the biggest damages.
And,
And mhm.
and you in the past you have told me also stories that there were sometimes like snipers around the city, which was also a big problem, and they would just You don't know which side they are
Yeah,
from. You don't know if they're threatening you or not. It's crazy.
yeah. I mean, when I recall these memories, it's really crazy when I think about it right now. I mean, one time, as I said, also my uh, uncle families, like they were living all in an area where it start having a fight in it, so they had to leave the area out of the southern, and they came to our home because it was in the other part of the city. And basically they went out without having anything with them. So after a couple of days the situation there started to get better. So they said, okay, let's just go back and take the valuable stuff, our paperwork that's it's really needed. We just need to get this. And I remember going there with them by car. It was like a zombie zone. There's nothing, and everything was destroyed. And we went there to get our stuff. And around the corner in the other street, we start hearing shouting, people shouting, and we wanted to check out. And then apparently there were a sniper from the other side who shot at someone that was just crossing the street. And basically you cannot help him. The guy was still alive, but you cannot go and help this person because you will get shot yourself. And that was a big shock for me, because you cannot help. You see this scene which is seems like a Hollywood movie, and I couldn't believe that happening in our city. So we quickly just took our stuff, get in the car, and we went into the other direction. And later we heard that no one could have helped this person.
And how big? How many inhabitants had your city or have your city?
Around I would say 600,000.
Okay, so it's I mean for the people who are listening from another from other countries, like Frankfurt is 700,000. So it's like a proper big city, probably.
It is the
and
third
and
largest city.
Yeah, the third largest city, and it's people have to imagine like a norm. It was a very normal city before the war, like with hospitals, football fields, probably with everything like a city.
Yeah, normally having everything we do, our activities like normal people, nothing. There was no signs, but yeah, it did happen. And
And what at what point did you decide that you're gonna move abroad? That you're gonna leave Syria, and how that happened?
after graduation, that's something still. Um, I am a bit sad about it, because everyone have always the choice, the freedom of choice to stay in the country or leave. Like yourself, once you said that after graduation, you said the situation, the working condition in Italy is not the best, so you decided to come to Germany. I guess you once said that. For me, I didn't have this situation. I didn't have this option, like to see, okay, let me see how the situation in my city, like do I want to work here, live here, and okay, I'm happy here. I didn't, because we have, after graduation you will go directly to military service. And usually before the situation it was for 2 years, but after the situation started it was open, which is the crazy part. I know people that went there in 2012 and they still in the military till now. So I really didn't have the choice. I said, okay, I need to go out. Where, like, Lebanon was most the only country that can let me in. And my dad's friends, he's an architect, the same one I talked to you about. He was working there, so he said, come, and we are thinking about opening something to work here, so you might come and work with us. So yeah, that's basically what was the reason or the decision of leaving the country.
And which city did you move into in Lebanon?
In Lebanon, firstly, I lived for a couple of months in Beirut, which is sadly also probably you heard the news now. Last week it was like this massive explosion, which is really made me sad because I knew all these places also that got affected. I was always around these places. So yeah, that's also uh,
Yeah, and that was also super weird because now we don't now that like one single explosion there caused a big mess because they have destroyed like I've read they've destroyed a lot of the reserves of food they had because
exactly.
every country storage like food for
That,
in
yeah,
case of
food
need.
security. That's yeah, exactly.
Yeah, food security and the city it's blown up. The air is now polluted and from what I've heard, it's just been they storage this explosive material in a incorrect way, and
Yeah, and for
there was
6 years, I cannot believe that they stored these materials in a port in the middle of the city for 6 years. That's just crazy. But the country, since I was there, was always. It's a very beautiful country, and I love it. But it was so much have this problem with the corrupted governments, and yeah, and it leads to such a situation at the end. So yeah, back I lived for a couple of months there, and then I moved to a city called Jubail, which is a very beautiful city on the coast side. And yeah, I worked there for a small office, which is more or less like real estate development, I would say. And yeah, there it was a mix between design and site, going to the site and supervising the work.
but to move to Lebanon, did you need to do a visa procedure, something, or you could just move? How did that work?
Yeah, it was also not that easy. Like to let you in, it was open, so you can go in, but then um, you need to register yourself each 6 months, pay a certain fees, and when I went there in 2013 was that at the end of 2013 it was easier a little bit, and it got like more and more difficult. They started make it more strict, not letting more people in, and even the people that are there, they won't give you a permit to work really. So it was a messy situation in these 2 years that I stayed in Lebanon. But basically, for me, it was a station. Like I knew from the beginning when I went there, it's not like I am going to stay there. I want to have another destination. So it was kind of a station in between. But it also wasn't clear what's the next step that I need to do.
But when you left Syria, did you get some help from your parents to have some money to stay there for a while, or how did you
Yeah,
manage?
yeah. I mean, for the first 1.5 months, I got a support from my parents, but after that, basically, I was at my own, more or less. But luckily, as I said, I managed to find this job, which was enough for me to cover my living expenses and a bit on the side to do whatever courses or like applications I need I need to do.
And how much does an architect earn in Lebanon back then? I mean, if you can compare it to euros or dollars or whatever.
I mean, there I would say 1,300 or 200. That's what I basically was this year. But I guess for more experienced one, like let's say 5 years, it might go 1,500, 600. So it's not that much
1,500, 1,600 euros,
dollars.
dollars. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that mostly for Lebanese people, let's say, because they didn't have a lot of foreigners, or not a lot will come to work there. But mostly they will go solo there. Like they will do their freelance work. Most of the architects there, and that's where it pays off, basically.
Okay, and you've worked there 2 years, and you have gained some experience. What kind of project did you work on in Lebanon?
First, in terms of, let me just put you in the image of what I wanted to do. Basically, I wanted to go to Europe since I went there. So, but it wasn't clear for me what country I want to pursue my study there. So the first idea was to go to France because I have relatives there, and I said, okay, let me go and continue my study there. So I started to learn French language, which is I only managed to do till A2. And after that, I found out that it's very difficult to get the visa, because that's another part. Getting a visa to come to Europe at that time, it was very difficult. Like you will most likely get rejected. And when I heard it's difficult to go to France, then I said, okay, let me improve my English, because also my English at that time wasn't that good. So I started to do language courses and do the exams that needed to get accepted in schools to study out there. And during that time, I was working at that small office, and mostly I was working for on a residential projects. Basically, I worked on two projects, but luckily from the beginning, from a very early design stage, we were only two-person. So that's let me get involved really into all the process, since like you design until you get the permits, and then you go on the site and you start seeing everything shaping up. And it's very different from how they do it here in Germany. Like in Germany, you know how many phases they have and how everything needs to be written, and you need to have it with a proper drawing for it. There it was like really freestyle. It was more or less you go to the Baustelle, you have the basic drawings, and then you tell the people, the contractor there, okay, do this, do it in this way, I need it that way, and like you supervise basically how it goes.
Well, I guess it's because maybe they don't have that many regulations as here in Germany. But you have mentioned you wanted to study French, then you decided not to study French because it was hard to get into Europe.
Mhm.
And at what point did you decide to come to Germany? And couldn't you go to France? Like I don't know, because when there is a war, you can ask for like a political asylum or something like this, right?
Yeah, yeah, but it's not like the way you think. Like you go to the embassy and you say, "Ah, I want to go there because there's a war." You cannot do that because basically you have 2 million people was in Lebanon, and like another three in Turkey, and I don't know, half of the country is outside seeking asylum. So you cannot do it this easy. Like people were taking this dangerous road, sea road, to reach Greece, and then like to get into Europe. I don't know, in one way, in each way. So you cannot do it like as simple as that. You need to have a proper reason to go. You say, I want to study. I have all the requirements that you need. There's people that went through the embassy to do this, but they were very, very limited. They were like cases where they knew that they are like a family, that they are really, really in need. They have injuries or whatever, and then they will take these people. But in my case, it won't be. It wasn't possible actually. So I decided to come to Germany because it was the most logical decision, because they are, German. Like they have one, two, three, four, five. If you give us this, we will give you the visa. While the others, you might bring everything and like eventually you don't get the visa. So yeah, I worked on finding a university, basically in English, because it wasn't also possible for me to complete the whole German levels there. I just did until A2, A2 there, and I get an acceptance from an architecture school here in Germany. I applied for a visa, and
Which school?
it's called, it's in Hochschule Anhalt. It's an international program called Dessau International Architecture in Dessau, like Bauhaus Dessau. And it's one of very few English program in Germany that studies design, like or at least at that time what I have found.
And okay, and then how did you manage to move from Lebanon to Germany? Because I guess the expenses you had in Lebanon were way lower than the German one. Because well, Germany, it's well, it depends where you are in Germany, but it's not so cheap to live here. I guess it's
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
definitely. And what I what I used to make there, it's not enough to have it aside and to come and live in Germany. Yes, about that. I simply lent money from a relative to cover my first year, which I said, okay, I will pay back when I start working. And yeah, and it was a requirement from the embassy that to have in your bank account this amount of money that covers your first year of study. And yeah, luckily it worked out.
around how much did you need
At that
for
time, to 8,200 euro.
oh, okay.
And
So
now I guess now it's to 10,000 or 11,000, because each year they increase the number. I guess I don't know.
and now I was wondering, because, for example, me personally, I guess that a lot of the people who live in the West countries, let's say, or have Western culture, don't know about the different cultures in the Eastern countries or Middle. I don't know if it's Syria. It's considered Middle East or.
It is definitely.
How was the cultural difference between Syria and Lebanon, and how were you accepted there? Um, First of all, you speak you speak Arabic, or what language do you speak?
Now you are talking about Lebanon, huh?
Yeah, Lebanon. When you moved from Syria to Lebanon, how were you accepted in Lebanon from the locals? How was your life there? How was your relations to the Lebanese people? And
Mhm.
yeah.
Firstly, in terms of language, we all speak Arabic. We understand each other very, very well. It's just a matter of accent, I would say, or some sentences or word that they use it in a different way. But other than that, it's there were no language barrier. Culturally, it was a bit different, but not that much different. Like it was more open than Syria, and basically the Lebanese people mostly, or at the time when I was there, they were mostly like welcoming people, because they are themselves experienced the horror of having a war or a situation in your country, and they know what that means to them. So when I was there, it was I didn't face really a problem from the people, from the locals, but that didn't last long, unfortunately, because the number started to increase massively. Like, can you imagine that Lebanon is a country with 2 million inhabitants or something? I don't know, two and a half, and then you brought 1 million from outside. Like 1 million Syrian came to Lebanon at that time. So that was simply too much. Like I can imagine how it is. So you
And
started
what make them upset? What because
because
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
having a million person there, like you have all kind of people then, like you have the good and the bad, and like there people, some people were acting irresponsibly toward the country they seek the asylum in, and and that's started to upset people there because they said, okay, we are good with you, we did everything possible, but that's cannot work. And of course there's also certain amount of people from the Lebanese themselves, they were also not very welcoming or open. So it was too complicated. Like you will hear a story there, story here, but in general, personally, I didn't face a big problem, except when I will go to extend my residence permit. Here, here it wasn't that much fun.
I see. And then when you arrived to Germany, how was your student life? How was being back to the university? And how did you find the place? How did you settle here in Germany?
Well, I would say, luckily, I have my aunt. She lives in Germany since 25 years. They live in Berlin, and basically, I just took a plane and I went to their place. They said, "Just come. We will manage to do everything." I had already contacted the students' dorm in Dessau where I need to study. They said, "Okay, we booked your room." So yeah, first of week I spent it in Berlin, and then I went to the student dorm in Dessau. And the difficult part for me was I was 1 month late for the university because of visa problems. Because of course nothing goes smoothly in that part of the world. When I wanted to leave, the Lebanese government says you cannot leave now. You have the residence permit that connected to the one that insures you. I did. It was a complicated thing, so they postponed my plan for like 20 25 days. So I went to the university, which was already 1 month late, and it wasn't easy. Like the first semester was, I had this cultural shock, I would say.
What was your cultural shock? For example, what did you imagine and what was different or what surprised you or
To be honest, I like when you are a person who lived your whole life in one place, meeting the people that all of them are basically like you or they have the same cultural background. I didn't have that much of in my mind what to expect, but it definitely was very different from what I used to. So this how or the program I studied there, it was like really one of the best experiences I had. It was a 2 years. I learned a lot, not in terms of architecture or study, but in terms of the people I met, because we were basically 70% or something from 50 countries from all the continents in one place studying architecture, and meeting all of these people and talking to them, listening to their stories and how they think, how everything they do. It was really amazing. So yeah, back to the cultural shock. I mean everything is different. I don't know what specific examples. I mean you wanna hear exactly.
Well, I don't know. For example, I can tell you that I had also, I mean, I was already with a very international background because me and my family, I've grown up in a situation where we were going back and forth through between Bulgaria and Italy. And Bulgaria and Italy have a different culture, so I was already, used to this cultural difference, and I have already a pretty bright horizon. But when I moved to Germany, I discovered that also the German culture is very different. You have this way of relationship between the people, which is completely different than in Italy or Bulgaria, or uh,
Yeah,
just yeah,
yeah, I get.
those general understanding of the people. It's different here.
Yeah, definitely. Like I would say that the culture I have, or the way that we spend our days in Syria, it's I would say it's closer to what you used to have in Italy or that part of the world. Here in Germany, it's really different. But there's another layer to that for me personally, which is you know, in Syria or in Middle East, it's a conservative kind of culture, and like it's mostly Muslims, and I am myself. And also, that's when I came here, and like you started seeing people from all over the world. Some of them have that, some of them they don't. And yeah, I remember going to university in the university to parties or something, and then like they start saying like, you don't drink alcohol. I say no, I don't drink. Like you've never tried it in your life. Like I didn't. I don't have the interest. I am happy with the way I live. I don't feel the urge that I want to. But yeah, for them was like a that's like one very small example I would say about the thing.
But was it for you? Was it for you also weird that people are drinking alcohol, or?
At some part, yeah, I would say at the beginning it will be weird. It was a bit weird, but then I met like great friends. We were always going together, and like they knew that I am the guy that like don't drink, and like we were just enjoying our time after that. So at the beginning, yeah, it was a bit weird, but after that, it was very normal.
But were there people like, because for example there are also people that are Muslim. I know people that are Muslims. I've my best friends in Italy. Their father is from Tunisia,
Hmm.
and their mother is Italian. They're not really, Muslims, but they, for example, avoid to eat pork in respect of their father, and their father also didn't eat pork. But for example, he was used to drink, a glass of wine. And there are a lot of people from Tunisia or Morocco in Italy I've met that they were like, okay, we won't eat pork, but we will drink some alcohol. Were there people in Syria that are, for example, not so respectful of the religion, or was there no alcohol at all?
Uh, I would say there wasn't that much. I mean, let's say because also I said the majority were Muslims, but we had also Christians. So alcohol, there were people like there were like places like you can buy alcohol like to drink, but it was an let's say accepted act to do it publicly. So mostly the people will avoid to do that on the street or something somewhere outside. There wasn't, I would say, or from the circle I know, there wasn't that much of Muslims that will drink alcohol, but there definitely is people that do that.
And also, I can imagine that, for example, for you, it's also sort of a tradition, or the way you have been grown up with your culture, with your family, with your friends. For example, I have some small. I'm Bulgaria. It's not a very religious country, also because of the past, which was communistic. But for example, we have a particular Christmas dinner or particular days in the year which we have some traditions which I like, and it's something that I'll always have with me. It's something that's nice. And I remember you told me that for example, because I have experienced that with you while working with you, you would do the Ramadan once in a year,
Yeah,
which is how long it lasts? 1 month.
for 1 month. That's for,
For one
yeah.
month, you don't eat while there is sunlight, right?
As long as the sunlight is there, like I don't eat, I don't drink even water. Like,
Yeah, true. The water thing was hardcore. And I remember I felt so bad because we would have lunch right next to you and you'll be like, "Oh, I cannot stop. I cannot avoid it because it's just, it's weird if I don't do it. I feel bad if I don't do it."
I understand what you mean. Like, it was the first year for me. It was at the university. It was like very difficult because it was like this time of the year, and it was so warm. And I at the same time I had my finals, and for 1 month I was doing this. And even when there is a time to eat, I don't eat properly because I was stressed and with my projects. So the first summer I did the Ramadan year was really difficult, but after that I got used to it basically.
But for example, when you explain me the meaning of this celebration, I thought it's a very interesting cool tradition because it's to teach you that you cannot get everything what you want at the moment you want it, sort of
Exactly.
to discipline you. And I think is that it's something that, for example, in the Western culture, it's completely missing right now because we are just in this so
We used to
this
get whatever we want instantly. Like,
yeah, and also with this COVID situation, we've seen how nuts we have gone here because we are like, it hasn't been such a challenging crisis like, I don't know, being drop bombs over your head like you have experienced, but people here, are super. I think that we're in the Western countries in general, in Europe, the US, North America, we haven't experienced big problems in 2 generations. Like, for example, we haven't experienced war, we haven't experienced a huge crisis. And we are just, trying to find meaningless problem in stuff that are not really a problem. And when there is a real problem, we just go really nuts. And I think that this quarantine and this whole lockdown situation has exposed that. But I remember that we have had also a chat about I'll ask you that before that, for example, also I think it's easier to follow your traditions back in Syria where everybody follows the traditions. And here it was also harder, right? Because you have all these, let's call it temptations.
that's true. That's true. I mean, and a lot of people that came here in the recent years from that part or from that culture, they didn't follow that. And I'm not saying that okay, I'm the good example to be followed, but because I believe in what I get raised to, like in the religion I have, in the culture. I still believe in those manners. So basically, here it was a challenge, but also having sometimes friends from the same country, having the family, it helped me to keep stay on the track, let's say, that I want myself to be on. But it's interesting because now it shows you um, also that when, as I said, I was at the university, you start interact with people with a very different background, and they when they start discuss that with you, you see like how much point of views there is. out there, and how there's different beliefs among peoples. But eventually, when you are happy with the way you live, that's the important part.
But is there something that you have, learned from moving in here in Germany, for example, some cultural behavior or some social behavior that you have noticed, and then you have thought, okay, this is something that I like to learn too, because I consider it something missing in my background, or something that you appreciate more. Because yeah, I think that I have, for example, in my personal experience, I have learned that the best side of a country is also the worst side of a country. For example, Bulgarians are generally very humble, and that's good because you're humble. But if you're too humble, you're never, self-confident. Italians are very friendly and very welcoming, and they like to enjoy life, but they do that every time, even when you need to do something serious. So even if it's about work, they're more like, the leisure and being chill. And the Germans are always serious, like very organized, very, they need to be on point. And this is also in the like personal life. You never can do something, it's very hard to do something spontaneous in your free time, because just people like to organize in advance. But is there something that you, for example, although maybe it has also its downsides as everything, that you have said, okay, here I've noticed this thing in Germany that I haven't practiced at all before, or that I haven't been practicing that much, that I want to adopt myself because I think it's useful, or it's different?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the one that comes to my mind is which is in our part of the, like in my country, that to accept people that are different from you, and that's something, or something is missing, I would say there. Uh, Here you learn how to know or to understand that there is a people that are really different from what you are, and that's here you need to understand and to learn how to listen to them, how to understand what they believe in, and try to respect these people. And that's something like for sure I learned, or like I gained in this 5 years here in Germany. And the other part, it will be basically being in Germany to be more punctual, like to be more strict about stuff, which is, I don't want to take it fully as the German do it, because I don't like that as well. We always need to have some spontaneously in our acts, or in our lives. But at certain point, when you need to get your things done, or to work, that's also really helped me, and it is something missing also in our culture, I will say. I guess that's the same also in Italy, to some extent.
Of course, it's to a lot of extents. I mean, I think that Italy, it's the country that you don't have. The problem with Italy is that you don't have some average, like a middle value. Whether you have the extreme good or the extreme bad. I mean, you have the worst, very worst mafia organization in the world, but also you have also, I don't know, the best fashion brands and the best design brands and the best sports car. And this is, to me, have been always fascinating. I think that there is something in between that's missing. And so you have studied how long? 2 years in the South, right?
Yeah, it was 4 semesters. I started studying there in 2015, and I graduated in the summer of 2017. So it was a 4 semester of study. It's a school that has a focus on design in architecture. So it's not like typical architecture where you have also classes to teach you, I don't know, building pyramids or structural uh, elements or whatever. This so it was more focused on design and concepts, which was good for me. The main differences with what I had in Syria that the design studios were really small. Like we were like 8 or 9 design studio with maximum 10 persons in one studio, which was great actually because you will have a weekly meeting with your professor for like 6 hours. You sit all of you together, you discuss each project together, and this interaction between students because you have a crit, you put your work and you discuss it with your professor, and then like the other guys starting to make an input to have something to say, and that's you learn a lot from this process, and it was something that really helped me during that years of study.
And I've checked a little bit your portfolio online because I could find it, and you have done also some competitions and some design projects. In did you do that during your student life? And
Yeah, actually, in my second semester, there was a studio, which was at the same time a competition for designing a campus, a university campus on in Italy, in an island near to Venice. Actually, it was an abandoned island, Bovilkia called or something. I remember, which was the challenge to take that atmosphere and turn it into a special university campus. And I did this competition with another friend of mine at the same studio. She was from Russia, and we got a finalist in this competition actually, which was fascinating for me because it was the first time I do competitions, and getting to be recognized was something made me really happy. And also we got an invitation for the ceremony from the organization that did the competition. It was in Verona in Italy, and that's was the first time when I visited your country. We went to Venice for a couple of days and then Verona, and it is a really beautiful country. Of course, there's a lot yet to see. There's a lot of places I didn't see yet, and I am willing to. But that's basically the first time I visited Italy because of the competition.
yeah, but I'm just currently watching at your project, and the people who are curious, they can find it on Izu. I probably will add also a link on the description of this podcast so they can see your works because they look really really cool. And then there is this other project I very much like, and I think you also happy with it because it got realized. I saw pictures, and it's also on Arc Daily. So for the people who don't know, Arc Daily is the biggest platform for architecture online. It's a website where there are a lot of works and projects listed on. It's this 3D jewelry pavilion. Um,
Yeah,
is that also a competition, or what was the idea behind this project?
yeah, it was a competition. It was for a class called CAD Logic, which is teach you the like each semester you have different topics, and the topics that for that class at that moment was talking about the fabrication, the method of fabrication for computational designs in architecture, and it's not the field. My field of expertise, I would say, but it was very, very interesting for me, and it was one of the most nice, or like let's say exciting experience I had in at that 2 years of study. It was basically a competition between 10 groups in the university itself. And they said, okay, we need a pavilion that can be easily fabricated, and we will showcase it in the campus fest that happening each year at the university. So basically, we were like 10 groups, each group three to four people, and we need during the semester to find a design that is realizable and have certain uh, sense of this method that we were getting from the our professor in the class.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, I didn't expect to reach a design that will get built really. So basically, we worked on it for the 2 months. Our focus was to stay on the ground because we noticed the others that were doing very cool designs, but you can see, yeah, with the budget that the university will offer you to build this thing, there's no way that it's gonna be done. So our challenge was to find this balance, having some excitement to it, and at the same time, it's visible to get built uh, at the campus with this budget. And yeah, I guess we submit our work, and then the university decided, okay, we will build this one. And here comes the shock because we didn't really like we had the basic the principle that okay how to build it, but we were we weren't really believe that it will be chosen, and we didn't thought through how to fully build the thing. So they said, okay, we will choose this project, and now it's 29 of June. At 15 of July, we need this thing in the campus standing. And we were three people, and like we looked at each other. Okay, what now? Yet? So that was very very exciting. We worked for 15 days. We had like a budget of 1,200 euros. So the materiality we chose was a cardboard, basically a cardboard, and joints will be more or less like zip ties or something. Like it's very very simple method of doing this thing. But basically, it is need to be fabricated digitally, or that's was the point. But to fabricate that things digitally will cost you like 5 times as what you have in your budget. So we talked to the professor and we said, listen, the money we have, we cannot do this thing. So they said, okay, we can do it manually. And we said, like, how we can do manually? Like I said, yeah, we will let everyone in the class, like for 2, 3 days, when you put all the drawings, like to cut this cardboard with their hands. Like, okay, and basically, yeah, we extracted the model from Rhino. We unfolded each faces, and like we printed that on a zero plans. Like we had 216 sheet, and we bought the cardboards, and we brought the people which they hate us for 3 days. They were always coming to us and said like, you really had to choose this design. We said like, "Eh, what we can do," but everyone eventually had a really really fun time because it was like these summer days and nights where we were like 30 people gathering together, having putting music in this large hall, cutting, doing. So it was like a small my first project managing experience, I would say, to get something to reality in a certain time.
Definitely, definitely. I think it's very cool because here in Germany, also in the university, it's very oriented on make you build something during the studies already.
When like let me just one point of the story, like when we cutted everything and we put the stuff together, the column of this pavilion, we said, okay, now it's at night, we need to put it outside. And then it start pouring rain at that time. And we checked the weather. The next day was also the weather it should rain. And here we got really depressed what we should do now. So again, one of the guys, he said, okay, at the location we can build our own small canopy to it, and we build it underneath that, and then hoping for the best until the next day that it won't be rain. And actually, that's what happened eventually, and it worked out. And actually, there's a video on Vimo, I guess, when you go to the school, the Alive, the Sound International Architecture. There's a video with a time lapse with the music. It's really cool. Like that shows you also this part where we build this small canopy and we built everything underneath that. And after that, it worked out, and it was a great day at the campus fest. And the professor said us like, let's submit that to Art Daily. I never personally expected to get recognized somehow, but eventually it did. It was like not in a one post. It was like among these students' project that got built at that year.
Very cool. If you have the links of the video and the links of ArcDelo, we will attach all the links to the description of the episode, so the people who listen can go and check your work.
Yeah.
But after you graduated, then you finished the school in whatever time you needed. And how did you transition here in Germany to the professional world? Because I think you have told me. I mean, I guess that because I've experienced that myself when I was a kid. Not really. My parents took care of those stuff, but when I was a kid, Bulgaria wasn't in the European Union, so I needed to have a visa or a permit to live in Italy, and they were taking care of those stuff. And now it's all European Union, and I have an Italian passport too, so it's not a problem. But
Mm.
how did you stay in Germany when you finished school? You needed to find a job. How did that work?
Yeah, basically, like here nowadays in Germany, like not only for Syrians or for the special situation that we have, everyone like who graduate, they do this really, in my opinion, smart move where they give you 1 year or 1.5 year, which called job seek visa, which they say basically, okay, you have 1.5 year to find your job in your field of study. And basically, it took me after graduation about 2 or 1.5 months to find something, because the biggest challenge for me was the language. Like the program I studied in was in English completely. And at that time, I didn't learn a proper German. I was doing some German classes in between, but my level was always maximum A2, I would say, beginning of B1, I don't know. So always they were like saying, okay, the language is a problem, and like you don't have any European experience in somehow. So I was firstly looking in Berlin because that's what I want, where I wanted to stay, but uh, I applied after that in other cities until I found a job in Frankfurt. And in these 3 months between the job and the graduation, I worked in a cafe in Tegel in Berlin, which was a cool experience for me because also in Syria we don't have that thing that you will work in a restaurant or a cafe that much among the students, like because they're mostly the family, like the parents will support you financially. So there I worked in a cafe for 3 months, and I really enjoyed the experience of doing something completely unrelated to what I studied, and to have some interaction, direct interaction with people on a daily basis. That was something I liked actually.
And then you applied also to different cities, and this is how you ended up in Frankfurt to work.
exactly.
here.
That's where I ended in Frankfurt at the office where we met, basically. Uh,
Yeah.
I there like I got several offers. I guess one from Munich and one from Frankfurt. Uh, but for me, having the talk with the people from the office, they I eventually chose the office in the Frankfurt. But for me, the problem that from the beginning they said, "Look, we speak English, but we are in Germany, so we will speak with you only in German." And the first couple of months when I start working there, it was crazy. Like they will come to me, uh, tell me, okay, you have this task, you need to do this, this, this. That's what's the background. That's what's you need to be to deliver. And I would not understanding 30% of what they will tell me, and then you have the struggle to figure out everything and to make it work. But luckily for us in our field in architecture, we have this visual way of communication. So you can translate everything to drawing eventually to communicate, even if your language wasn't at the level or at the needed level. But yeah, parallel to the work, I was doing German classes after work for 2 hours, 3 times a week, which was really exhausting for me because you will go to work from 9 till 6 or 7, and then 7:30 you have a class for 2 hours until 9:30, and then like you are at home dead 10 something. So that was like a lot, but it helped me a lot to improve the language. And that's, I guess, where in these 2 years of working there at that office, that I improved the language a lot.
Yeah, I've seen that too because I've worked with you, and I haven't worked with you a lot in the beginning. I think I started having something to do with you when you already knew German. But I understand you because for me it was the same. But I was in the same situation in the beginning. But maybe for me it was a little easier because in the beginning I was sort of intern because I was a student here in Germany and I was working beside my studies. So I didn't have the pressure because I knew that even if I had a little lack in my language skills, I wasn't a full time employee. So they didn't have those big expectations from me as for a normal employee. And is your situation now stable in Germany? Because I remember you were also working towards some unlimited permit to live here, or how was this currently your situation?
Yes, I mean now I got a permit for 5 years which is connected to my current work in Berlin. But I applied for the which is called unlimited residency in Germany, which is in progress. I hope to hear something in a couple of weeks or month. I don't know. If I get this, then that will be a big thing for me because that will mean I can stay in Germany as long as I want, regardless of my employment situation, which is you avoid a lot of pressure at that in this matter.
I understand. I remember when we got that in Italy with my family, and then I think a year later or something, Bulgaria was part of the EU and was totally. We have these all these papers, which I think my dad and my mom kept those papers for a while because they were, emotionally connected because a lot of struggles and suddenly you don't need anything of all the stuff you have done for years because I think we have moved. Well, it was seven. We've moved. My dad have moved to Italy when I was 5, I think, and he went in 1998, and we moved in 2000.
Hmm.
And I think Bulgaria joined the EU in 2007. So it's been for 7 years, a lot of struggles, and then
I can,
suddenly
I
no more.
can. Like I have now my at home, like my paperwork. It's like three shelves full of stuff that I mean, even without this pyramids problem, like I guess even for you, like in Germany, you always have a lot of paperwork because they love sending everything in post. Like they don't love
Yeah, but
digital way.
that's very interesting because, for example, for me as a EU citizen, I didn't have any paperwork. I just came and I said I'm living here, and they said okay, and that's it. But I guess that for and imagine that in Italy was back then. Italy is way more disorganized than Germany, so I think that we have had way more paperwork than you have been doing here. But
Okay.
but I'm happy that you're finally achieving these little goals for your personal, life security. And how is the situation currently in Syria? Is it getting better? Because like the war part, how is the COVID situation there? If there is any COVID situation, because if they're not testing, for sure there is no
Yeah.
virus.
Unfortunately, it's still not good. It's not the same in the same sense where when I was there in 2013. It's in a very different matter, but it's still I'm in a connection with my parents, and they whenever I talk to them, like every time the situation is not getting better in terms of like they have this economical siege, I would say, where the situation is not getting better in any matter to let the people work and have a bit of a normal life there. So still, my father couldn't get his business back because the economy is not good in any sense, and yeah, also the infrastructure. It's really uh, it's really old, and these years of wars that made it even worse. So electricity will still have it like during your 24 hours. You will have 3 years on, 3 years, 3 hours on, 3 hours off for the whole day, which is
Yeah.
crazy. I still like.
I think it's a mess. And do you think there will be chances anytime soon to your parents to come over or for you to go back visit them? Because I remember also they couldn't get a visa to come visit you, and you cannot also go back currently.
It's still unclear. I've tried a lot. I am trying now to have another method of applying for visa for them, which is a program that they ask you to have a certain level of security to invite them here, which is still a bit far from what I have currently, but hopefully at certain point I will be able to do so, and I'm still not able to. I'm not able to go back to Syria. Since I left
Yeah.
2013, I couldn't get back, and I still can't. So yeah, in the near future, it doesn't sounds or seems to be any chances that I can still meet with my parents.
Yeah, well, I hope for the best in that situation. I know that it's a very messy situation, and now with this whole pandemic, it's even messier because the borders of Europe for the other continents are mainly closed. We'll see how it will unfold. And the last time we have talked on the phone, you have said that also you got inspired and you're planning to move something into the direction of also archivists. How about that? What are the ideas for the future? The even if they're rough ideas, you can tell me just something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the first thing that when you are in a country, like for example, for you now, you know that Frankfurt is the city you wanna stay in. for me, I achieved that goal by knowing that Berlin is the city I want to stay in, and now in Berlin, and I'm happy here. So now I'm thinking professionally because now I'm working in an office on a big project. Uh, it's an office building, and then I'm in Ausführung planning. And before in Frankfurt, I didn't do Ausführung planning. Now I am doing Ausführung. And basically, I got a rough idea about all the design or like all the stages that the building, or most of the stages that the building get through. And I don't know if I am yet finding myself doing that for a long time. So I always had the passion for doing visualization, even though I am still not in the level which there is out there. But I'm definitely trying to improve and get there. So I had the idea with a friend of mine, a colleague in my current office. Okay, he has the same passion, so we said, okay, basically let's try do something about it. So basically now we are planning to build a database, a kind of a website, and to shape up our work, and then we will start doing maybe some freelance work about that. But it's still not clear. Like this idea needs really a lot of planning yet, because now the question will arise of what's with our current employment, what that will mean. And with my current visa situation, I don't have the luxury to say, okay, I will quit, I will do this only, and like you cannot start this way. So that still needs a lot of planning, but definitely uh, your show helped me actually to have this decision through your first episodes when you talked about the fear of showcasing your work and how to improve your skills, presentation or whatever. Like it really, and then like you had your guest from Italy.
Federico Biancolo. Yeah, he's also in the business.
Yeah, that's really inspired me. Like listening to his story and how he took the decision. Okay, I don't want to do a design anymore. And as an architect, it's not an easy decision to take. To say, okay, I studied for 10 years, whatever, I did the work, and then I don't want to do design anymore, and I want to do this. And that's not easy to say, but I found it really inspiring because doing visualization makes me happy. It's something I like, I enjoy, I have the passion for, and here you have the chance to have the business out of it, even though it's a very challenging, competitive market because you see how much amazing, talented people out there doing this. And yeah, you just need to and I always describe myself as more of a hard worker, but that's a good part of in our creative field also. So we will see.
Yeah, I'm sure you will manage also the documentation part and the bureaucracy. It's just a matter of time. I want to thank you for sharing this story. It was very interesting, very different. I'm sure that people will enjoy it. And whenever your project it's moved further on and there is more about it, you're always welcome to come back now that you have been once on the show
Thank you.
and tell us about the process behind and how it's developing. I'll be curious. You will be very welcome.
Thank you. I will.
So thank you very much. And I want to give you, as any other guests of mine, the possibility to shout out some of your contacts or social media so that if there are people who are curious to contact you personally, ask you questions, or just get in touch, where they can do that.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, of course, I don't. I won't make it so complicated. I would say simply contacting through Instagram. It's simply my name, Nabil Rajjoub. I guess you can put the link in the description. And yeah, you can basically anyone wants to contact me for whatever reason, I will be available there. And also, I will leave the link for the videos we talked about during the episode. And yeah, that's all from my side.
Cool. And I'll add also the link of your portfolio, because I think that the projects are very, very inspirational for the people who are curious.
It's
And
updated, but yeah, it is also good.
yeah, and thank you very much for the people who have listened. And I want to thank you for listening. And if you like the show, you can support the show by just following the Instagram page at TCI Podcast, or the Facebook or LinkedIn pages, The Creative Insider. And thank you very much. Thank you, Nabil, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, you too. Have fun. Bye bye.
Bye bye.